You'll remember just under a week ago, Sean Spicer, the Director of Communications, left his job. And the man who is, if you like, in charge of communications now is Anthony Scaramucci, the Mooch, who joins me now. First UK interview since you took the job.
Thanks
Great to have you. Tell us first of all, Anthony, what we should understand of the relationship with Jeff Sessions now. Will he stay the Attorney General?
Oh, I think those are both two principles, and so as the communications director, it would be inappropriate for me to get in the middle of that. And so I think this will resolve itself over the next week or so. Certainly, I think what I would say to my colleagues here and cabinet members is that if you really understand the president's personality, he's a very straight shooter. He likes to express himself. He likes to let people know how he feels. Sometimes it's a tough conversation. He's had some of those conversations with me during the campaign.
Why isn't he having that conversation with Jeff Sessions? Why is he tweeting about it, letting rumor take over?
I think part of his nature is that he's a very tough person. And I mean by tough, I mean it in a good way. He's really trying to use the bully pulpit and the Oval Office and his presidency to execute an agenda on behalf of the American people, and this is a very tough town.
You think Jeff Sessions will stay? Will he be in the job this time next week?
Do I think he will stay? It'll be up to the president. I think Jeff Sessions is...
You'd like to see him stay?
What I'd like to see him stay, again, it would have to be up to the president. I don't want to interrupt whatever is ultimately going to be the outcome between Attorney General Sessions and the president. I like both people a great deal. I worked with Attorney General Sessions on the campaign. Obviously, I'm a huge supporter of the president and his agenda. But what I would say to my colleagues here, have a tough exoskeleton, be a tough person with a strong backbone. In your hometown are hitting each other left and right. Now, they may be hitting each other in a more subtle way. I sort of like the more open approach. You know, one of the things I cannot stand about this town is the backstabbing that goes on here, okay? Where I grew up, in the neighborhood I'm from, we're front stabbers. We'd like to tell you exactly where we're from and what we're doing. And so to me, if you can handle the president's personality and you can handle his temperament, which I happen to love, then you're going to do great with the president. I just want to make one more comment because I think your viewers will appreciate.
I'm not going to cut you off at all. I'm going to talk to you about front stabbing because I'm wondering whether the president feels he's been front stabbed by some of the senators who voted down that repeal of Obamacare.
Well, it's too early. It's too early. What do we know? That's a congregational setting. There's a lot of conversations that go on. If you read Team of Rivals, it took Lincoln 3 or 4 times to get what he wanted from the Senate and the House of Representatives, which was the full abolition of slavery. That was a much tougher thing to get done than what we're working on right now.
But even under Obama, they voted to get rid of Obamacare. It was only Obama that kept that bill going. So here, under Trump, under the Republicans...
It took 22 months for President Obama to get what he wanted from the legislature. 22 months. We're in the 6 months of the president's presidency, and so think about the things that we're trying to accomplish inside of 1 year. If I'm right, and I believe I will be, and the president's going to make it so, we get the Obamacare repealed and replaced, which I predict will still happen, and we get a level of tax reform that we haven't seen since 1986, and we do that inside of a 12-month period of time of the presidency. I think that'll be remarkable, and hopefully you'll invite me back on the BBC and you say, geez, the guy had pretty good predictive powers.
Well, give me a date then. What kind of time frame are we working for?
I can't give you a date because I'm now living in Washington. Okay, do you live here in Washington?
Nope.
Okay, see, that you're lucky for you that you don't live here in Washington, because what happens here in Washington is people say one thing to your face, but they don't really mean it, and they say something else behind your back. Okay, so what I like about the president, it's actually good leadership to say the things to people's faces, what he actually means, and then let's resolve it or not resolve it. We're either going to reconcile or we're going to go in different directions, but at least now everybody knows how they feel. What I love about the president, you don't think I've had tough conversations with the president, him and I? Of course we have. We've known each other for a long period of time. But what I love about the president, he's a remarkably loyal guy. The loyalty, though, has to be symmetrical. And good loyalty is always symmetrical. You don't want asymmetrical loyalty. But he's here for a reason. The American people are fed up with this city.
Okay.
And so I'm calling on my friends in the city, a lot of these guys I like in the House and in the Senate, to dial it back, support the president's agenda, because it's your long-term agenda and it's in your long-term best interest.
Let me ask you something. If you were running a campaign and somebody called you up and said, we've got serious dirt on your opponent, it comes from Russia, would you take that meeting?
Well, I think I'm going to stand by what the president's remarks were, that most people would take that meeting. I think what I have issue with is that all of us, myself included, were political neophytes back in June of last year. And so had Donald J. Trump Jr., who's a dear personal friend of mine, and I can attest to all of your viewers, I know he's done absolutely nothing wrong, and he will be completely and totally exonerated.
But you're saying he's naive.
I didn't say he was naive. I said he was inexperienced. There's a difference between naivete which is simplicity and some level of stupidity, and inexperience, which is, okay, this is something I have some curiosity about and I'm going to take the meeting.
Why wouldn't you ask advice then? Why wouldn't you go to somebody who wasn't inexperienced and say, should I take this meeting with Russians?
We were running, you have to think about how phenomenal this movement was. We were running a campaign with a skeletal staff. We spent less than 2/3 of what Secretary Clinton spent. We had a very small local operation. She had thousands of people all over the country. You got to think about how upset the United States people are, the middle class people. You know, when I came back from your beautiful city in London, I was with the dean of the Harvard Law School, and she said, well, why did they Brexit? All of the elites that I just met with in London said they were never going to Brexit. And I looked at her, I said, have you been to a Bernie Sanders rally, Dean? Have you been to a Donald J. Trump rally? That'll explain everything you need to know about the discontent.
And I've been to the Trump rallies, and I've been to Brexit rallies. But I want to bring you back onto I want to bring you back onto the Russia question, though, because this is threatening to undermine every other thing that the president is trying to get done.
I don't believe that.
You don't think it's damaging?
Absolutely not. I think it's damaging short term because there's a lot of nonsensical things that are going on because we live in a town that manufactures scandals. This is Scandals Incorporated down here. So what we do is we manufacture fake scandals so that we can disrupt people. We can hit them personally to try to.
Congress wants to hear from the president's son, the president's son-in-law. I'm just asking you, don't you find that an extraordinary thing? It's not the town. It's Congress. It's the Senate. It's the House.
Schiff said that he had a very good feeling about what Jared Kushner, who's an unbelievable guy, who's earnest and incredibly honest. Even he should see what's happening right now, which I love, is that the elites and the media establishment that want to hit the president on Russia every day, they're recognizing that there's nothing to the Russian story. So here's what's going to happen.
Donald Trump is not elite.
We're going to move on.
The business side, or the politics side, or the inheritance side. What part of Donald Trump? Many people in the UK don't understand that.
There's so many things about the president.
He's a celebrity.
How about
He's
the
a billionaire.
cheeseburgers? How about the pizza that we're eating?
Everyone eats cheeseburgers and pizzas. What are you talking about?
See, you're coming across a little bit elitist, so let me just say something to you, okay? I grew up in a middle-class family, okay? We had virtually a tight budget and little to no money. I spent 30 years of my life trying to get into the global elite so I could stand here and serve the president, and I missed the movement. You know why I missed the movement? Is I tunneled myself into elites. And we had this circular conversation about what was going on, which was completely wrong.
Donald Trump is not elite, then? He's not an elite?
Oh, very much so. He's both. He knows how to operate in an elitist world, and he has unbelievable empathy for the common struggle that's going on with the middle-class people and the lower middle-class people. He has something that, frankly, I don't have, and it's embarrassing to me to admit it to you on a live television show, but I missed the movement. I grew up in a middle-class family, and I didn't size the economic desperation that was taking place in my hometown.
Okay, a bit of good news.
He showed it to me.
A bit of good news, because Donald Trump tweeted that he was very excited, he was very encouraged about a big trade deal with the UK. Now, just to get into the specifics, our Environment Secretary today said he would not do a deal with the US if it meant accepting chlorine-rinsed chicken. That's the big question that's going on in the UK at the moment. So the question is, would the US administration, would the government make those concessions to do a deal with us?
Here's the very good news about me. You and I are meeting each other for the first time. I have no idea what's going on with the chlorine-rinsed chicken. And so even to pretend and make something up to you, I'm just not going to do that, okay? But if you want to interview me in a week or two, I'll figure out what's going on with chlorine-rinsed chicken. I bet you I have a clever answer for you.
You think we're going to get a trade deal with the US?
100%. Loves the United Kingdom. Don't you want a trade deal for your great country?
Do you want a trade deal with the UK more than the EU?
You only ask the questions, you don't answer the questions, right? Do you want a great trade deal?
We want trade deals with everyone. Of course we do, for our economics.
So think about the special relationship that we've had since the inception of this great nation. You know what this nation is? It's a disruptive startup. Okay, it was a group of rich guys that got together and said, you know what? We're going to break away from the other country and start our own country. This is the disruptive startup. You know what the president's doing? He's bringing it back to its roots of disruption. Okay, we're going to disrupt and hack the political system to take care of the American people.
To do trade with the UK, what does that mean? Does it mean that you will meet us halfway, that we have to give in to you?
No, I don't think so. He's about reciprocity. He's about fair and equal trade. He just wants it to be reciprocal. And there's a historical context for that. When we came out of the Second World War, the United States put in place the Marshall Plan, and then working in coordination with State and Treasury, we unevened the trade deals so that we could allow goods and services to flow freely into the United States, but we accepted some level of embargo activity elsewhere so that we could grow those middle-class
We're being
groups.
told to wrap. Last question to you. You've
Told
been
to
in the
wrap.
job less than a week.
Yeah, it's
Give us a
5 days.
sense of how it feels. What is it like being right in the center of the White House?
I'm having a lot of fun, okay? I love my country. I told people at a press conference last week that people work with me. No one has ever worked for me. I'm about collaboration and getting the people around me to win. And so I'm super excited to be here. I had lunch with the president today. I can't tell you who else was in the room, but he looked over and he said, "Doesn't Anthony look like he's having a good time?" And the answer is yes.
You're here to stay?
We'll see. I'm here to serve at the discretion of the president. If he wants me to leave tomorrow, then I'm not going to be here to stay. We'll have to see
Great
what
to
happens.
talk to you. Thank you
Emily,
very much
it's great
indeed.
to meet you. Sorry
And
I called you an elitist. I didn't. She's probably not an elitist, but she was hitting me. She was hitting me very hard.
You can come back and call me an elitist
Okay, it's
anytime
okay.
you want. You can come to London.
I didn't mean to call you that. I apologize to your viewers.
We slightly photobombed the mooch just before. That will explain why he wasn't in the menu for us a little bit earlier, but we're very pleased to have had that. There is an awful lot to unpack here, and as you heard, just 1 week into the job, so we'll come back with more on that when we know a bit more.